building psychologically safe, and you use that word a lot, and resilient teams is a key focus for you. So for startup founders working to create a positive and supportive team culture, and notice I say team here because in your interview with the CEO of Bunnings, he doesn't say staff or employees, he says team, which I think is excellent. So what practical steps or strategies would you recommend to enhance both care and high performance within a startup team? So I guess first I really should have asked you, what is psychologically safe? What does that entail?
It was probably made famous by a Professor Amy Edmondson, who's at Harvard Business School. She wasn't the original inventor of the term, but she was the one that really showed its relevance about 15 years ago. For example, she worked on that disaster of the spaceship Challenger. She worked on that for 2 years to try and unpack what went wrong there. And so a psychologically safe team environment is where we feel we can be our authentic selves.
Yeah.
It's where we feel we can make suggestions and people won't, shut it down out of hand. They'll listen, they'll ask questions, they'll encourage it. It also encourages people to take moderate risks, to better serve a client or a colleague or whatever, try things, moderate things.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work out, we don't crucify that effort. We actually, just say, well, that didn't work out. What did we learn and how do we move forward? And there was actually a seminal study published. It was in the New York Times. And if your listeners Google it, you Google NYT, what Google learned in its quest to build the perfect team.
Mm-hmm.
And there's quite a long article there about it. And the project was called Project Aristotle by Google. And they were seeking to understand what made up the best teams. They looked at 180 teams around the world. They looked at 250 different factors for each of those teams. And at first they thought it was going to be, the individual makeup. Were there more high performance people there? Were there more greater diversity? But they couldn't get, any real correlation there.
Mm-hmm.
And so the breakthrough came when they looked at how does a team work together? And they identified 5 key elements, or they call them team norms, that these very best teams used. And number 1 was psychological safety. And I'll come back to that in a moment.
Yeah.
Number 2 was clarity and dependability. We knew what was expected. We knew about the various roadmap along the way. Number 3 was dependability, that if we say something, we will do that. We work it out.
Yeah.
And if we can't, we'll come back and work out something together. Number 3 was around meaning, and that was really relating to the purpose of the organization.
Yeah.
And number 5 was impact, that we felt our team was contributing to the purpose and meaning of the organization.
Right.
And this term then was really looked at, and when I do presentations, I often use a tool called Menti. And so I ask people to reflect on their best team. It could have been this team, a previous team, a footy team, a netball team, when you worked at McDonald's. And I ask them, what was different about that team to other teams you've been in? And I give about 10 different options and ask them to choose 3. And always, in 95% of the cases, the top 3 are, we had each other's back, we cared about each other, and we enjoyed working together. And, that really describes psychological safety, having each other's back, caring about each other, and, enjoying ourselves, and that can make a huge, huge difference. So that's always a realization for people. They've already worked in one of those types of organizations or one of those teams. And then to keep it going, one of the things that Google found was the best way to build psychological safety is that every team meeting, every weekly team meeting, people had to share one risk they'd taken in the previous week.
Okay.
And we're not talking about physical risk, we're talking about psychological risk. So it could be, you got a troubled relationship with a customer. So you decide to go out and meet them in person. You take that risk to meet them, have a coffee and try and turn it around. Or a colleague where you could have had, some friction or whatever, you try and turn that around. And that's a really, really important component. The other thing is also to be pretty honest about how you're going from a mood perspective. And, just to ask people, you in a green zone or an amber zone this week sort of thing. And it's very important that leaders are authentic with that and share what's really going on to make it okay for others to say what's happening with them as well.